Good evening, everyone. The Finance and Investment Cell of Shri Ram College of Commerce welcomes you to today's session of Shri Ram Financial Forum. We are honored to have amongst us our guest of honor, Mr. Pramod Bhasin. Welcome, sir. Mr.
Thank you.
Bhasin was the president and CEO of GE Capital in India from 1994 to 2005, where he founded their financial services and also built the joint venture with the State Bank of India in credit cards. He is considered the founder and pioneer of business process industry in India. He founded Genpact and built it from start into a global business that has its presence now in 20 countries and employs 80,000 people. Sir is currently the chairman of Clix Capital, a financial services business in India focused on providing digital platforms and financial services to consumers and small businesses. He is also the co-founder of Asha Impact, an organization focused on social impact investments like education and waste management. He sits on the governing board of HelpAge India, the Indian Council of Research on International Economic Relations, an NGO for handicapped children, amongst others, and is a distinguished alumnus of our very own SRCC. Now, I would like to invite the faculty advisor of FIC, Ms. Saroj Joshi, to welcome everyone.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I, Saroj Joshi, on behalf of Finance and Investment Cell, SRCC, welcome you all for today's session. It is giving me immense pleasure to have Mr. Pramod Bhasin as our esteemed valuable time for SRCC. It is indeed a matter of pride for us to have you amongst us. Thank you so much, and I welcome you. I now request you to kindly take over the session and enlighten us with your thoughts and words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate this opportunity. How's everyone? We have 70 people in the audience, which is pretty good, right? And everybody's speaking from home, I presume, and the college is shut at this point in time. Am I correct in assuming that? Yes.
College is shut, sir, but we are in the process of opening up. So faculty members and other admin staff, they are coming to college, but students are still not coming.
I see. Very good. Well, I wish you well. I wish you all the best. I hope you do really well. It's a real privilege and an honor for me to be able to speak to all of you. As you may, I don't know if you said that or not, Madhavi, I had to run off for 20 seconds here in between. But as you may know, I'm alumni of the college. I was there decades ago. I'm older than most of your father, than most of your fathers. I used to stay in the hostel at the back.
Okay.
A block, what was A block? And then I don't know how many. You have many more blocks now. And I think what is also wonderful is that I think 75% of the students are now women. Is that correct? Or something like that? Or
yes, majority, yes.
Majority, right? That's quite amazing.
Right, sir.
You know, when we were studying, we had one very brave woman who was also doing a Bachelor of Commerce with us. Just one in those days. That's a wonderful transformation that we are seeing. And buck up, man. You better catch up. You better find out what's happening. I couldn't have got into the college that it is today, you know, because the marks are too high.
Right, sir.
You know, I would have got. I used to get middling marks in school, and I did okay. But getting to Shri Ram wasn't as difficult then or getting into any college, frankly, wasn't as difficult then as it is now. I must admit, I don't understand how you get 99% in anything, in any subject, if you're grading it, unless it's a yes/no question. But I'm sure. You know, the various schools and boards, etc., have done this very well and have done this accordingly. Can you hear me very well? Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Great. As you know, nowadays getting Zoom and other things done is incredibly hard. I thought what I would talk to you about is both the journey that I went on, to give a bit of an example of what it took me. And and also what I believe the future holds in terms of the way I see it developing, the things that confront you, the things that are opportunities in front of you, and the way you can shape your lives. So I'll start by saying a few provocative things, if you don't mind. I'd love you to debate it with me. I'd love you to tell me I'm wrong, and that life is very different. But I'll say a few provocative things. I'll say a few things. One or two of them provocative, and then see where it goes. So I hope you realize you're already 0.5% of this nation, right? That's where you sit. You represent 0.5% of this nation. You're in the best commerce college in the country. You're a small group. How many students in every class, in every year? I can't hear you, Manavi. You're on mute.
So there are around 40 to 45 students in every section.
No, I meant every year.
Oh, in BCom honors, we have around 850, and in economic honors, we have 200 plus students. So around 1,000 per batch.
1,000 people in a country of 1.3 billion. At some level, I hope you wake up every morning and think about how amazing that is. That's who you are, right? 1,000 people, 1,000 students, a total of 3,000 or 4,000 students in a country of 1.3 billion. My God, I hope you realize how fortunate that is, how advantaged you already are, how frankly the world has already given you its oyster and said, now do with it whatever you want. There is not a single one of you who will not get a great job. There is not a single one of you who will not do well. There is one of you who will be despairing for the things that many others and most of India for, which is money, which is food, which is all of those things that our country so desperately needs, particularly as a result of these COVID times. Certainly, I don't want to bore you with history, but certainly when I came out, there weren't that many jobs. I went from England, I went from doing my commerce to England to do my chartered accountancy, and spent many happy years there, about 10 or 12 years working there, doing my article. I failed my article exam. I'm very proud to tell you. I failed it a couple of times, not just one. I liked it so much, I did it again. I failed again. So, it was, mine is not the example to emulate, by the way. I will tell you that up front, okay? But I do want to emphasize there are many ways, there are many paths to achieving some success, to achieving what you want to do. There are many paths. And I think one of the paths that I would always recommend to everyone is don't take yourself terribly seriously. I think in India, we have a habit, professors are very serious, students are very serious, meetings are very serious. Keep it like, don't take yourselves too seriously. Enjoy your life. You have only one life to lead. You work to live. You don't live to work. You don't live to study. You study to live. To create something greater out of life. It is something that I find that the Americans do very well. They are boisterous, they laugh, in their colleges they laugh, the classes are funny, the teachers are jovial, jocular, the interactions are quite hilarious. It was also at work. I worked in England for many years and then went to America, I worked in England for about 12 years, worked in America for about 10, 12 years. And then, of course, my career with Genpact meant that I was working with American clients, English clients all over the world, and traveling there virtually once a month or for 15 years after that. So, but one of the joys was that we never took ourselves too seriously. We laughed a lot. We enjoyed we enjoyed the joys of life as much as we did anything, because it broadened us also, by the way. It really broadened us. It broadened our experience space. It made us better people to be able to experience all the variety of life, etc. And also all the cultures that we had all over the world. So two, I would say, as you think about the future, and follow your own, you will always eventually follow your own lead. I failed my exam, but I did well after that. I worked hard. I worked for an accounting firm, Arthur Anderson in those days, and Touche Ross, it was called. I did well with them. I went to Bahrain and suddenly realized, oh my God, I'm actually good at something. They liked me and they were willing to promote me and they were willing to give me, a situation of a manager of a couple of different countries. So they really enjoyed that. But I left the Middle East, and I left it because I didn't like the way Indians were treated there. So I learned early, and I think my father taught me this early, is that self-respect matters, and you cannot sort of sell your soul for money or anything else. And remember, I hope you will remember that, because you will always get more money somewhere else. You will always be able to do more business somewhere else. You will always be able, there are teachers in your college who teach not because they can't make more money elsewhere, but because they love teaching, right? And they love teaching in one of the finest colleges in India. And that is sufficient joy for them. And they love that. And yes, will they complain about things when, the faculty housing doesn't work properly, et cetera, I bet. I'm sure they do. But at the same time, they do something for the joy of it and for the sheer love of the profession. And I think you can't do anything in your life unless you love it. So that's the other point I would leave with you, is do things that you love. Now, you have to have enormous luxury, by the way, to be able to find things that you love. But it won't find it initially, and there's no hurry. And you may find that when you're 30, 35, whatever age you may be. I certainly didn't find it in a hurry. It took me a long time. But you really excel when you're doing things that you love with people that you like and you're enjoying that. As we grew older, one of the things I also learned was about leadership. You will all find your own way to leadership. There is only one true definition of leadership, which is what Peter Drucker said many, many, many moons ago. He says the only definition of leadership he has is someone who has followers, which is just to say that there are all kinds of leaders. There are quiet ones, boisterous ones, noisy ones, angry ones, passionate ones, sensible ones, logical ones. You will have to follow your own path. You will in fact have to make sure that you follow your own path in terms of what you're good at, leverage that as much as you can. And if you look into your backgrounds, what I used to find amazing at Genpact was I could identify people by what they would be good at by their backgrounds. What do I mean by that? Very simple, by how you were brought up. If you were brought up in a scrappy, hungry family where your parents were scrapping, you guys were working hard, etc., it'll give you a fire in your belly, which is different from someone who was brought up perhaps in a much more comfortable. If you're brought up with a lot of people around you, you probably are better at teamwork than somebody who isn't. If you're brought up where you had to fend for yourself and you had to do everything for yourself, it'll bring us a different level of self-confidence. It'll also start telling you what you might be really good at. And I think inevitably, when you go back, when you think about your life 10 years from now, you will often question the relevance of your education, because your education will seem like, what's the point? When was the last time I used double entry bookkeeping? The answer is never, right? Never. You don't have to worry about that. When is the last time I understood all the things about taxes? I don't know. It's been a long, long time ago, right? But I didn't need to, because I started doing something else. So you will find your own strengths in the way. And I think leadership is all about whatever you choose to do and who you are. And it's individualistic, and there is no cookie cutter. Beware of mentors. Okay? A lot of people come to me and say, I want you to be my mentor or like a mentor. And I'm saying, why? Why do you want a mentor? I didn't have mentors. I didn't like mentors. I don't like the word. Because I was saying, I want to be myself. I want to be my own thinker. I want to be independent. God gave me a brain. I want to use it. So be wary. Of course, have mentors. Don't get me wrong. But be wary of mentorship, because too many people want to be mentors who have done nothing themselves. Not every corporate executive is worth chasing or following or listening to, including me. Most of the time I'm wrong on many things, right? So don't get carried away just because we have gray hair, that what we say matters. A lot of it, most of it doesn't matter. You will be smarter than us. You'll be better than us. The only thing that old age brings, remember, is a bad memory, you are less fit. You don't remember stuff as much. You're probably not as sharp. Yes, teaches you how to, it gives you lots of experience about, when something went wrong, what did you do, etc. But it has a limited bandwidth and a limited set of admirers for that condition. So I always tell people, I said, when you want mentors, make sure you go to somebody who, one, has done something really special, and two, is going to give you back something you really need, not your usual direction, not your generic advice, but something in some area where you feel that could be really valuable for you. I'm droning on because what I'm going to do is talk for another 15-20 minutes, and then we'll open it up to Q&A from all of you, and I'd love to do that. I built a company called Genpact. We started the entire BPO, BPM, business process management revolution in India. And I do call it a revolution. It's taken very much for granted now. We became, by the way, if you want to know, we probably the biggest hirers of chartered accountants in this country still, because we do so much finance and accounting practices. And it all sounds like old hat at this point in time, right? It all sounds like old hat. Been there, done that. What's the big deal? But let me tell you that when I first thought, when I was running GE Capital in India, I was in Chennai. We had a small operating center which ran the back office for our consumer finance business in India called Countrywide Consumer Finance. And we were going through that. And I thought, why can't I leverage this talent for the rest of the world? It was that simple. There was no, and great ideas sometimes are that simple, right? They don't come with any great brainwave. They don't come with some magical, crystallization of different things. They just come because you happen to have a great idea and you see a set of things around you and you say, why can't I do this for the rest of the world? Except we had a few issues. Phone lines didn't exist. All of us had 3 phone lines at home because phone lines didn't work at that point in time in India. You couldn't connect with anyone. Half the time you were redialing phones. I couldn't connect with America. My phone line would constantly go down. We couldn't connect with the internet. The internet had just about started. But you couldn't connect with the internet because the phone lines were so bad. And Indian phone lines and the telecom system was terrible. And imagine going out, remember this now we all take it for granted. Imagine going to another country and saying, well, what do you think? Why don't you send me all your financial services, back office processes for your mission critical companies to India and we'll process them from here, 5,000-6,000 miles away. And you're doing that with a bunch of people who haven't been to India, across phone lines that don't work, in infrastructure that is notoriously bad. So if you think about that leap of faith, then you realize how bad that was. I asked people also, I asked my boss at that time, he was the head of GE Capital. I said, Gary, a gentleman called Gary Went, who I loved. And I looked at him and said, Gary, give me a little money to experiment. He said, Pramod, you can't even talk to me on a phone line properly. And now you're saying you're going to take all my back office processes and do them over a phone line from India. He said, you're either completely mad or completely naive or probably both at this point in time. And I pushed him hard and he was someone I knew. And I said, give me $2 million, Gary. Just give me $2 million. Stop making a fuss. I knew him that well. Again, that was the joy of meeting, of informality and informal conversation, that we could joke around with each other and we could talk and we could, and it wasn't that formal. It was just, by the way, nobody called each other sir. Huh? That's one habit I hope all of you will break one day, which is don't call everybody sir. Call them sir if you think they deserve it. But wait till you find out, rather than launching into it straight away. So again, nobody called him sir. And I pushed him, I said, Gary, it's all right. The phone line drops, but I'll get a better phone line. He said, well, why can't you get a better phone line to talk to me? And I said, well, for you, I can talk to you easily, but I need a better phone line. I'll get to a better. So he gave me $2 million. Now, the problem is that we had no talent available, right? We had no technology available. We had no phones available. Getting a computer was hard. We had no one trained in any of the processes that I wanted to do. So credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, underwriting of other various kinds of loans, because we were serving GE Capital initially. We had no talent. We had no offices. We were working out of warehouses in Gurgaon. The first one was Corporate Park, for those of you who know Gurgaon a little bit. But as we burst out, we just had one floor. As we burst out of there, we had no office space to go to because none of these nice, shiny buildings that are there in Gurgaon existed, right? It was complete village, complete farmland, no catering, no transportation, no technology, no tools, no nothing. It was an adventure right from day one. It doesn't seem like that today because you can take for granted all the developments that have happened over 25 years. But trust me, at that point in time, this was all a complete adventure. And I'm going to look up some notes here. Yeah, this was all a complete adventure because we really didn't know where it would go, would it succeed, would it not succeed, and most importantly, how would the US counterparts that we were trying to serve, how would they respond? And it is an astonishing fact of GE. GE was the most admired company in the world in those days. It had the highest market cap. It sits where perhaps Microsoft or Apple sit today in terms of just sheer size and wealth. It was fantastic. It was run by Jack Welch. But they had the good fortune to go out and say, and my sales pitch to them was very simple. I went out to them and said, look, if you send me your processes, I'll save you 30 to 40% of your total cost. Very simple, very clean, no other selling proposition that was required. And they said, okay, we'll try it. So they sent us the first batch. So what would happen is they would send us a first batch of enormous amount of documents by courier. We would input them into data files and send the hard disks back to the US for input into those data files. And we would update customer records, or we would update loan application form, or whatever other work had to be done manually at that time. Now, of course, most of this is done automatically and digitally, but in those days, a lot of this was done manually. And as this started happening, we realized we had a tiger by the tail, that this idea began to take off. We wanted, and initially, and that's how the call center started. We were not big in call centers, we never have been. But that's how that entire phenomena started. And those were exciting, heady days because every day was a new adventure. Every day something would go wrong. The bus wouldn't arrive, the people wouldn't arrive, the equipment wouldn't arrive, the chairs wouldn't arrive, the office space wouldn't be available. We wouldn't have the right people trained in the right areas. We'd need a mortgage expert, and out would come an expert in some other underwriting capability, and then we'd have to put them in front of a client. So it was really absolutely a trial by fire every single day. It was also substantial risk, as you can imagine, because everybody was saying, Pramod, if this goes wrong, nobody's going to forgive you because you could put the company's financial projection and closure at enormous risk. And that was hard. That was very, very hard to think about and take that risk. But the one thing I will ask all of you to do is please change something that I believe in India really hurts us, which is the ability to take risks. We're not risk takers as a nation. As a religion, in most of religions, and the way we brought up, the way we're told, keep your station, the way we run hierarchically, we don't take risks. And yet, if all of you don't take risks, then I don't know who will, because you represent that 0.5% of India. But the company there was willing to take a risk, and I consider that to be my best attribute, is that I was willing to take that risk. I didn't know how this would work out. I didn't know what it would do to ICRIER. But quite honestly, that was hardly the point. We were onto something big and exciting that could change the face of the towns and cities that we were working. We had no idea where this would go. And as we built expertise, and as time went on, and as the news went out to more and more people across the country, we suddenly realized we had a tiger by the tail. And very quickly it became a case of going out to the world, and they would ask us, what can you do for us? And I would turn to them and say, tell me, I can tell you what I can't do for you. Pretty much anything else I can actually do for you. I can do treasury, I can do underwriting, I can have doctors look at medical claims, I can have nurses do it, I can do French processing, French language processing. I can pretty much do whatever you want. We can do weather forecasting. We started the analytics business in 1997, 98. We started data sciences. Along with that, we started the IT business. The IT help desk business is something we started. So all of these things were new. And in every case, we had to discover a new solution. There was no point my going out into the market and saying, let's find some mortgage underwriters, because they didn't exist. So then the question was, how do you find new surrogates? How did you find someone who was close to that and retrain them? And where did you get the trainers from? So we would actually wander around the world. We would go around the world and look for Indian executives with that kind of experience and bring them home. So it was quite fascinating, because we would have recruiting teams running around, not just all over India, but searching across the globe to get us the kind of experiences that we wanted. Very quickly, we began to bulge and break through all the restrictions, limitations in our mind, but also the limitations of our own infrastructure. So we started getting demand from companies, which was outrageous, from GE, from everybody else. We went from literally 20 people to 300 to 800 to 3,000 to 12,000 to 20,000. And we were recruiting a wide variety. This was very much unlike IT, because in IT, it's a cookie cutter. You can train those IT people in a certain way, they come with certain way. Here, we had to train MBAs, chartered accountants, BCom students, Bachelor of Arts students, English speaking, the complete range, statisticians, data scientists, everything, every kind of person other than and HS as well. So the range of people we had to go out and get, and everybody that we had to go out and recruit and train, was enormous, and added to the complexity of a opportunity that was huge. It started putting India on the map. We started being asked by a lot of companies and by government to say, what's happening here? What are you guys up to? We started having employees, parents, calling us and saying, where are you taking my daughter in the middle of the night? Why are you making her work till late at night? Why is she having to come home at 12 at night? And we would entertain them in the office. We would bring them in. We would show them what we were doing. We would take them around. We would show them how they were being looked after, to give them comfort. They were all beginning to earn more, and they were beginning to travel. We had so many kids beginning to travel. We were getting them passports and putting them on planes to go in transition processes, as we would call it. And they would find themselves, they would wake up on their first long distance flight in Kansas City in a small hotel somewhere, trying to figure out where the closest vegetarian food was, or how do you get to office, because most of them didn't drive. And it completely blew their minds, and it blew our minds. And despite all the noise you hear about America, and the politics of America is something I hate in the last 5 years, it was an amazing country that absorbed all these people and welcomed them all over the country. There were times when I would walk into the GE Capital cafeteria in Stamford, Connecticut, and there were more people from my GECIS operation and Genpact operation there than the actual Americans working in Stamford itself. Half the cafeteria would be full of Indian guys, and I would look around at all of them. They didn't know me, many of them, because they just heard me on some town hall, and suddenly we realized this was a revolution in the making. We went from there to become bigger, and what happened was even better. The head of GE in China called me up and said, Pramod, there are many Japanese-speaking Chinese in a place called Dalian in northeast China, which is next to Japan. And that is an accident of history, a bit like English is an accident of history in India, right? It happened as a result of colonial rule. So Dalian in Manchuria had been conquered and ruled by the Japanese. And therefore, a lot of Japanese-speaking Chinese, Japanese-speaking universities, etc., had come up there. And he asked me, he said, can you please do the same thing that you did in India for the English-speaking world? Can you do this in Dalian for the Japanese-speaking world? And we said, why not? We had never been to China. I sent off young Anju Talwar, who used to work for me at that time, a young lady who didn't look like someone who would be willing to take that kind of risk, but who was full of chutzpah and ready to try anything. And I sent her off, and she went off to Dalian. Dalian hadn't seen an Indian person in their lives before. I remember when I hit Dalian, they would follow me around the street to see what kind of animal I was. You know, where did I come from? What did I look like? And who was I? And we started teaching. You know, we were Indians who spoke English, trying to teach Chinese who spoke Mandarin and Japanese how to do business with Japan, and Japanese people who spoke only Japanese. The fact that we got anything done was a miracle, because it was an astonishing Tower of Babel. Everybody talking to each other in a different language, with interpreters going everywhere. We made every mistake in the book, in India as well as in China. But you know what? At the end of the day, when you're determined to solve a problem, you solve the problem. And when you're determined to find a way through it, you find it. And so in India, we expanded into new towns, and like Hyderabad, Chandrababu Naidu invited us, gave us 26 acres of land. We took it. We expanded, and the entire boom started in Hyderabad. We started in Jaipur because I wanted to set up a small office that there has been very successful in Jaipur. And slowly we started off in many of these new areas and towns and built these operating centers. We went to Dalian. I would recommend, do something, everyone. Go to China a couple of times, not just once. It is the economic miracle of this world. We may read all kinds of nonsense about it, and you know, again, I hate their politics and what they do and the aggression they have and many things. But domestically, locally, it is a gigantic miracle. Absolute miracle. You've never seen anything like it in your life. And the problem with it is that the Western press and the Indian press doesn't really cover it, because they feel that, okay, we can't give them too much coverage because there's too much politics, etc. But the fact is, both from a poverty reduction program, from revolutionizing their education system, manufacturing capabilities, where they pretty much build for the world today. You know, despite all the noise that was going on with Donald Trump and China, etc., the fact is production hasn't moved out of China because they build for the world. Very many companies can't actually move because they have no option. They have nowhere else to go. Only China has built the technology. I don't know if you know, but the Burj in Dubai, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful buildings ever built, it's built by different architects and, of course, built by the vision of the local people. But, you know, the glass on it could only be created in China. And only the Chinese construction workers themselves could come and put it up all around that building. So the Apple phone, as you know, I don't know how many of you have read, this touch screen was made only in China. That's the only place that could make it. So we may discredit them rightly for many things, but we should also learn from them, because they are fantastic. They own 80% of the world's drone market, having started in 2012 with nothing. They are risk takers, and I hope one day we will be in areas of artificial intelligence, in areas of healthcare, digital health, remote healthcare services. They're probably, they're probably 10 years ahead of the world, including America, everybody else, at least, if people look at it. So go there if you can, not for any other reason, just to say, I wonder how they did it. And then to say, I'm going to learn and do it myself. And as you go forward, and then Genpact boomed. So then we went to every accident of history. So we went to Budapest and Bucharest because we could find European language speakers in those countries, which would actually be serving the rest of Europe. We went to Guatemala, we went to Colombia, we went to Brazil. And in all these cases, these were new countries we were going to. We had no idea where they were. I would get off the plane, place my first foot in a brand new country and wonder, where am I headed? Where am I going? Why am I here? What will we do here? What will we create? In every one of those cases, we had the opportunity to create something unique and remarkable. Genpact today is, and I never expected this, I'll be honest, when we started. So the scale of your ambition can never be known upfront because you always think it's going to be small. I remember hiring someone called Tiger Thiagarajan, who currently runs Genpact. I hired him in many years ago. He worked for me for about 15, 18 years. And when I asked him to run Genpact, because I was running GE Capital Asia, he looked at, I told him, one day Genpact, Tiger, will have 2,000 people working there. Well, Genpact today has 100,000 people working in 26 countries around the world. As I then stepped down in 2011, and by the way, this was accident, right? I didn't know this is where I was going to end up. I had no plans. I didn't plan it. My entire move to India was an accident. GE wanted to come to India. I knew Gary went really well. This is a true story. GE is wanted for its HR organizational processes and selection of leaders and how great it is at picking fantastic leaders. But in this case, I was sitting in the cafeteria with my closest best friend, Muzi Mirza, who was from Pakistan. We used to work together at G Capital. Gary walked by, looked at Muzi and Muzi, he knew both of us well. I said, Muzi, what passport do you have? He said, Pakistani. American passport, but I was born in Pakistan. He said, oh no, you won't do at all. Oh, sorry. You won't do at all. And again, this is the way we used to kid with each other. He said, God, that would be a disaster. And he looked at me and said, Pramod, what passport do you have? I said, Indian. He said, you come with me. Come with me. We're going to a meeting which GE is having with its internal audit staff on entering India, and you're going to India. Okay, come. That's it. That was it. And I had a choice also. I could sit there and say, well, shall I go to India? Is this the right time? This is not the right time. What will I do? How big will it be? Is India ready for me? Am I ready for India, etc., etc.? And he looked at me and said, you want to go or not? I said, yes, I want to go. And that was it. It took about 2 seconds for him to make the offer. It took about 2 minutes for me to accept the offer. Now, remember, I'd been away in America and England for 25 years. I'd never worked in India before. But this was a dream come true, obviously. There was something in my mind. But it is the ability to respond quickly to opportunities that will define your lives. I assure you of that. More than all the planning, more than all the analysis, a lot of people come to me and ask me, how did you plan your career? And the answer is, I didn't. I didn't plan the career at all. Whenever opportunities came up, I took it. And the more flexibility you demonstrate to be able to do so, the more willingness you have to be able to turn and change. Today, I find it astonishing that in India, you ask somebody from Bangalore to move to Hyderabad, they make a fuss. You ask somebody from Delhi to move to Bombay, they make a fuss. I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, guys, I just don't get it. As if, we are so comfortable in our homes, in our places, and then we want the world. And I find that to be truly astonishing. Let me look out a little bit. So that's some vignettes of the way, I got to where I got to, which is a series of opportunism, accidents, timing, luck, guts, skills, everything put together. But for the future, one of the greatest joys you have ahead of you is this onslaught of technology. A lot of people will try and scare you about technology, but technology has always created more jobs, not less. Always created more jobs. Computers, internet, whatever it may be. AI and ML will do the same. They will create many more jobs for all of you. So I think the opportunity will be vast. You also now have access to money in a way that is truly exceptional. There is so much money in this world, by the way. Never fall for the guy who is carrying the money bags, because money is the cheapest commodity in the world today. If you have money, you can earn a princely 1% on it in the US. In Japan, you can earn a princely 0%. In most other countries, you can earn 3%. Wow, wonderful. What power. Money is cheap. Brains, ideas, creativity is expensive. What you do with it is expensive. So think of what you want to do. Some of you will take risks. And if you don't take risks now, I don't know who will, because all of you will always get a job. All of you will always get a job without question. If you tried something for 2 years and failed, I now hire people who have failed. I look for people who have tried new things. I look for people who left the safe option. You know, the commerce degree and the accounting degree does not lead you to risk because it's very defensive by nature, right? It's meant to be about accounting, meant to be about finance, meant to be about investments, all of those things, and it leads you to very safe opportunities. But it is your opportunity to break through from that. The best finance people we met were always those who were bold with acquisitions, who were bold in their thinking and thinking about how companies they could help their companies. The best finance guys in GE, and we had a fantastic finance team. We were sat next to the CEOs always, and we were always plotting and planning what we were going to buy next, where we were going to go, which country we would go to, how would we penetrate that, how much money would we spend, what was the return. But sitting still and not doing anything was not an option. It is one of the great things you will find about the West, is in their own quiet, thorough ways, they're very aggressive and they keep moving. And they may do it very quietly, but not growing was never an option for us. And so you wake up every morning, and I hope you will do that, and say, what is it that I must do next that will help me grow or help me evolve or help me do something I really love? We get for a few things. A lot of people ask me what it takes to succeed. The answer is actually quite simple. 5-6 days a week, 30 years, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. That's all. Ready for it? Go for it. If you don't have energy, you don't absorb, you don't learn, you have no curiosity. Be fit as a result. That's why those people are fit, not because they want to fit, but it makes them curious, gives them energy, gives them real ability to energize others. Where you have enormous energy, you're enormously fit, and you are enormously curious. So under Welch, we learned that. He talked about it. He said, I hire people who have energy. I hire people who have energy and who can energize others. Otherwise, you could be the smartest person in the room and nobody will know it. And there's no point. Follow what you want. You'll be successful at what you do. Teach. It's such a wonderful profession. Build something, help people, make some money, invest in a company, do a startup, anything. All of them will have their roles. All of them will have their space in time. And all of them will lead to fantastic success for this very small group of highly selective people that all of you represent. And I hope you think about that every morning. I do. I live here in India now. I've lived all over the world, and I am forever grateful for the opportunities I was given. And I hope you will be as well, because you're sitting in such a marvelous place at this point in time. I'll end there. I'll be very happy to take any questions and answers you may have. And I don't know how you want to orchestrate this or how we make that happen, but I'll turn it back to all of you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is wonderful hearing from you and about your stories of taking risks and having a fire in the belly and the entire story of Genpact and all. So should we move forward with some questions, sir?
Yes, please. Go for it.
So, sir, our first question is that...
You just call me Pramod. I know it'll feel unnatural, but it's all fine. In my office, by the way, everybody's banned from calling me sir. Huh? It doesn't matter who you are. Please.
Our first question is, what new innovations in technology and machines can we expect to see as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think, COVID has accelerated digitalization, right? Enormously. We've all learned how to use it far better. So in many areas, banking, healthcare, HR, communications, personal technologies, we've all accelerated the onslaught of digitalization. But I think the areas which will be very interesting is 3 or 4. One is analytics and data sciences, and the use of data sciences and analytics to make better predictions, to be able to get better conclusions. 2 is healthcare. Finding healthcare solutions for the rest of the world becomes a big challenge. Not the rest of the world, just India also is a big challenge. But technology can today help find all of those solutions. And I think if you think about delivering medicines with drones, if you think about remote diagnostics, if you think about remote clinical analysis, if you think about the fact that artificial intelligence and algorithms now have a better chance of predicting cancer than human examination by a doctor, 10 times better accuracy, 10 times, right? Done by algorithms. If you think about how blood pressure is taken, how heartbeats are taken, how devices will be formed, huge area. Education, transform. Financial services, transform. Pretty much across the board, you will see massive areas of transformation. And I hope some of it will be created by all of you. Right?
Thank you, sir. We have another question from the audience.
Please.
It goes like, IT and technology have essentially proven to help sustain life during COVID. How can cost-effective technology be provided to SMEs and the retail sector in such hard times?
Well, it's a tough one. So one, they already have got the benefit of technology in terms of free internet and very cheap communications, right? The telecom costs in India are the lowest in the world, probably, right? What we need to do is produce local systems and platforms, and this is where India has to take more risk. We've got the world's largest in number, human numbers, IT companies, but the lowest number of products from them. And I wish we would come out with products which are very low cost, which are ERP solutions, HR platforms, whatever. So Zoho, things like Tally, which is the local ERP. Those are the kind of platforms and systems that the SME community really needs, systems to manage their inventory, systems to manage their cash flows. And I wish and hope we can build modules and sell them to the SMEs through that route. These will be homegrown solutions. And I think this is the only way it will work. But technology is already reaching out to them. I just think it needs to go a lot further. And it's really up to the bigger companies to find and build those solutions and not just borrow from the West and bring those solutions here, bring the Oracles, etc. of the world. Those are way too expensive. We're already finding that. And there are far better solutions. A bit like, the Chinese model of the cell phone, right? That's what we need here to be built out of IT services. The Chinese model of the local cell phone, which has dropped prices for everyone.
Thank you, sir. So this question is one that a lot of us had. So even the budget has mentioned of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So how is it going to impact businesses and employment? And further, can we expect it to substitute human labor?
So its impact should be profound, right? Its impact should be huge. AI and ML should be massive. Why? Because look, if I am underwriting, I'm the chairperson of Clix Capital right now. If we are underwriting for loans, the computer will do it better than the human any day. Any day. Because you set the rules, it makes no mistakes, the rules come through, boom, boom, you decide, yes, you can give a loan, no, you can't give a loan to such and such person with such and such characteristics. So all of that will keep happening, right? And all of that should keep happening at the same time. But as I said earlier, AI and ML will produce more jobs, not less. So using AI and ML Uber is an example of using that platform. What has it done? It has created jobs for thousands of new drivers. Airbnb is an example of that. And so technology always creates new opportunity, not less. So now suddenly you're going to have robots that can monitor installations. That will create more jobs because someone has to build those robots. Someone has to monitor them. Someone has to get the signal. Drones will deliver medicines. that will do. There's no reason why drones won't be delivering food at some point in time, right? Again, you have to manage them somehow in the air traffic control, etc. But all of these things will happen. Algorithms will solve for healthcare. So that one of the great expressions I heard is that AI and ML will bring humanity back into jobs. And by that, what was meant was it will take care of the worst kind of jobs, right? The worst at labor, moving labor from here to here. Now, will there be a dislocation, etc.? Yes, but those people should get better jobs. They should be trained better. They should be educated better. There's no point suggesting that they remain as laborers, sweating it out in the heat. You know how our construction happens, right? With armies of people. Well, you won't need those armies anymore, and all of them, and never underestimate human ingenuity. All of them will find better ways to work, other things to do, more improved things to make, better things. Maybe they'll just make them faster. Maybe they'll just work on more sophisticated designs. But AI and ML will bring humanity back. Nobody should, back into job, nobody should ever have to clean a table again in a restaurant, right? At some point in time. There should be a little drone fellow running around, a robot fellow running around. He should be cleaning the table. Cut. Again, right? Nobody should have to wash dishes. Nobody should have to get under a car and figure out what's wrong with the washer. Nobody should have to nobody should have to carry stuff as a coolie from A to B. Nobody should have to cycle on a rickshaw physically to go from Y to Z. Those are the jobs. But all of those people, I hope, will actually get a chance to evolve and go up the value chain and do really well.
That was a really insightful take on AI and ML, sir. Moving on, although MSMEs employ over 110 million people in India, around 70% of them are majorly offline. The pandemic has left them struggling. So how can they move to digitalization in a cost-effective manner?
Well, I don't think it's a cost-effective issue because they could have moved to digitalization, etc., quickly. I do think, though, it's a matter of bringing them into the organized economy. And that's the biggest issue that India faces, not only for MSMEs, but remember that 80% of India's labor works in an unorganized economy. Now, remember also that the unorganized economy actually feeds the organized economy. So construction, which employs masses of labor unorganized, is run by organized economy. So the two are inextricably linked. GST was a great thing to bring into force, and that has made 100 million more people come into the workforce, into the organized workforce. And I think it's the legitimizing of things like that that will help these MSMEs get into the organized workforce and not be left out there. Because when you're unorganized, what happens? You're not enumerated. For instance, right now, what is RBI's issue? We wish we could have given loans to all these companies. But honestly, I don't even know where they are. I don't even know where to reach them. India, amazingly, doesn't even have a data bank of unorganized labor. If you ask an economist, where do the 6 million people who join the workforce every year go? Nobody can answer that question. That very simple question. Because they are not enumerated in the organized sector. So we don't know where they go. We don't know what becomes of them. We don't know which cities they go to. Enumerating them, to me, in itself, would significantly improve the prospects for opportunity and employment. And then digitalization will actually follow automatically, because then you have to be part of the supply chain, the GST chain, the mobile networks, the ordering, the receiving, the formalization of your financial records. That starts happening very automatically. It allows you access to people, to venture capital, to investments. Or that entire cycle can start. But first, we have to enumerate these people. And I've always been astonished at the fact that that hasn't happened.
We move on to our last question, sir. So how do we use technology to reduce the impact of another such pandemic or epidemic in the future?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that, I must tell you, because that's not my forte. I think clearly technology has already shown us how during the pandemic we were able to use technology. And by the way, India used it probably better than most countries to track it, to curtail it, to contain it, to do all of those things. And I think in future also, there are lots of platforms and programs being developed which can track the steady march of a disease from one part of the world or one city to any other city, and therefore are very clear as to where you need to attack it. And all of those things will be in place, which will help. But from what I've read, which is similar to what you've read probably, unfortunately, we can't guarantee there won't be another variant of this. We can't guarantee that at all. There is nothing happening in this world today. This is a once in 100-year thing. There's nothing happening today that suggests that it will never happen again. I think the only thing that I would say might happen is that a vaccine can be developed much, much, much faster, and production capacities could be ramped up much, much, much faster than they were at this point. This time it took, a year and a bit. And then even now, I mean, despite having that year, everybody's struggling with production capacities. I find that laughable. That's ludicrous. The richest countries in the world all have production issues on a vaccine they've been waiting for a year and a half. Think about that. What does that say for the government, for the private sector in all these places? It's amazing. They couldn't ask them to put in extra capacity, fund it, and say, okay, here you go. Now make it when you're ready. Let it come out so that we can vaccinate it. Where was the world? Were we sleeping? Were governments sleeping? I find that awful. And I hope things like that don't happen, because that's actually unforgivable in terms of the fact that after 12, 14 months of wanting the vaccine, we are singularly unprepared. It's just mind-boggling, right? This is where India has really done much better. But even in India, we have a huge vaccine shortage in terms of the total numbers. And we're still not being able to balance out who to give it to and when. None of you need to worry. You're too young. You don't care. The virus wouldn't affect any of you. So, but people like me, we worry every day. So I'm astonished that, after such a long time of waiting for the damn vaccine, we can't get it. It's here, but we can't reach it. So, but hopefully in a month's time or so. But I don't have an answer to the rest of your question. I just hope we are far better prepared, ready, responsive, and move fast if and when this happens. It will happen at some time.
Thank you so much, sir. So,
Pleasure.
as the session draws to an end, I, on behalf of the Finance and Investment Cell of Shri Ram College of Commerce, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Pramod Bhasin, who took out time from his schedule to share his insights with us. I would also like to thank Ms. Saroj Joshi for all her support, and the professors of SRCC, and all in attendance for today's session. Thank you for making this session so successful. I would now like to invite Ms. Saroj Joshi for the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Bhasin, sir. I mean, I'm not even comfortable to call you Pramod, sir. So I would call you sir only. So thank you so much, sir. It was such a lovely session with you. And I mean, I personally enjoyed and inspired. It is an inspiring speech. And I won't say speech, it was just a discussion that you were sharing your experiences. And it's, you have a very inspiring life, actually, I would suggest. And success obviously can't be measured in terms of numbers and marks that you get, but what you achieve. And, after achieving so much success, you're still so humble. And, I just love listening to your experiences and all, whatever you have taught us. And I think everybody would be inspired by your journey. Thank you so much. And I can't thank you enough for sparing your valuable time for us. Greetings from SRCC, sir. Thank you.
I want to also say one thing. I want to thank you, the teachers, all of the teachers who taught us, who took their time, who were so wonderful, who were so dedicated. Thank them every day. I was a very bad student. I never attended classes. I played cricket. I played soccer. I swam for the college. I played table tennis. I did most of that. I didn't go to the classes much, but I eventually thanked them for letting me pass. I was deeply grateful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I would also like to thank the FIC team for organizing such a wonderful session. Thank you, FIC team. Thank you all the participants, my colleagues, everybody who has attended the session. It was lovely to have you all with us. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.